have made it to day 27 of the government shutdown.
Yeah, an inglorious distinction we've managed to get to. The Senate voted 12 times on a funding bill. They have all failed to get it across the finish line. Meanwhile, across the country, a lot of folks are really feeling the impacts of the shutdown, from air travel to government offices being closed. And a big one this Saturday, November 1st, we know that is when funding for SNAP benefits will expire for about 40 million Americans. Some states say they'll be able to temporarily cover the cost of benefits. Others directing their residents to turn to local food pantries.
Joining us now to talk more of how exactly SNAP benefits will be affected is News Nation's Jackie Coppell. Hiya, Jackie.
Good morning. It's good to be with you guys for the second hour in a row.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's good to have you. So, you know, the states would love some help from the federal government on these SNAP benefits, but it's not coming.
No, it's not coming. And in fact, that's one of the major issues that states are facing, right? Even if they make up some of the difference on these SNAP benefits, as of now, they've been told that the federal government will not reimburse them. And so it will be money effectively lost, as it were. And that is obviously deeply concerning to the states.
Yeah.
So it costs about $8 billion to cover these benefits for everybody. The White House has about $5 billion in reserves. Why not just spend some of that money?
Well, the administration says that essentially it's sort of too late, that the mechanisms to distribute that money would take too long. And so they can't do that by November 1st or November 2nd. And so they're saying also that they need to have some money in reserve for other issues that may come up, tragedies, a hurricane, et cetera, that they have to have that money for other things, and therefore they don't want to use it for SNAP. Of course, Democrats counter and say there are mechanisms in place where you can move money. It doesn't have to just be all or nothing. And in fact, they call what's happening cruel.
So, in fact, 214 House Democrats sent a letter to Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins, and this is what it said. We urge USDA to use these funds for November SNAP benefits and issue clear guidance to states on how to navigate benefit issuance. There are clear steps the administration can and must take immediately to ensure that millions of families across the country can put food on their table in November. And this is a real issue. I mean, some people have a hard time putting food on the table.
Absolutely. I mean, millions of Americans, you said over 40 million, could be impacted by this effectively decision to not move money, or quite frankly, what we're talking about is to keep the government shut down, right? That's the core of why this is happening. And this will impact many, many, many families. And we're headed into the holidays. It's a hardship that is going to put pressure on these elected officials to get something done.
So let's talk about what's going on locally. In D.C., we're told the city government is going to fund WIC, the Program for Women, Infant, and Children's, but not SNAP benefits. Virginia, the governor has issued a state of emergency. They're going to be using state funds to cover SNAP benefits. Maryland said they're not going to fund SNAP. Part of the reason being that if these states temporarily do cover the cost, the federal government's not going to reimburse them for it.
Exactly. And that's one of the major concerns, because then the states are in a bind to then not just find the money for SNAP, but then fill the hole that's leaving. And so there are some states that say they just can't do it.
So Hakeem Jeffries had something to say about this, and he is pretty much calling it cruel.
Donald Trump and Republicans on Capitol Hill are trying to weaponize hunger in order to jam their extreme right-wing policies in their spending bill down the throats of the American people. That's unacceptable. That's un-American.
But of course, the president doesn't see it that way, and he's pointing the finger at Democrats.
This is purely Democrat. They're doing some really bad things. I think they're lost souls. You know that is, so they are lost souls.
And right there, you see the perpetual sameness of this argument, right? One side wants to fight for something, and the other side is either no, we blame you, or no, not yet.
That's right. What the Republicans are saying is, look, we're happy to have these conversations on negotiations, and ultimately this comes down to, it appears, the ACA, right, healthcare subsidies. Republicans say, we will negotiate, we will have these conversations, let's just open up the government in order to do so. And Democrats say, there's no time like the present. Premium notifications have been going out, but more will go out, for the beginning of November. People will be faced with the realities of their premiums rising. They say double, even triple, thousands of dollars more per year for some families, and Democrats argue that it's just not tenable to ask families to pay that much more. And they say Republicans have had many months in order to have these negotiations, and that's why everyone's back is against the wall.
Yeah.
And that's why we saw last week when we spoke to John Fetterman. He's been one of the only Democrats to cross party lines in the Senate and continuously vote in favor of the CR. And he said a lot of it had to do with the SNAP benefits expiring. Let's talk about some other sort of pain points that are out there, the missed paychecks. And we have some information we can show you about some of the important dates that are coming up on the calendar. Starts on Halloween. That's when the next military paycheck is due. Congressional staff are supposed to be paid. But Jackie, that November 1st day, not just the funding for SNAP, but that's when folks will really start to see just how much they're going to have to pay for their health care. And then, of course, we get to November 21st. If we're talking about that long of a shutdown, you get into Thanksgiving week, and the air traffic controller situation really comes to the fore.
Absolutely. And there is some hope on standalone bills, right? There's a bill to pay federal workers. There's a Republican bill, a Democrat bill. They're trying to come to a meeting of minds on this. There's potentially a standalone bill on paying air traffic controllers, military. So there are ways to work around the shutdown. But the question that is facing these elected officials is, if you essentially take care of people and pay them, then these pain points go away. And then does the government just stay shut down that much longer because people are getting paid and therefore they're not as bothered by the shutdown?
Let's see.
Just a deep sigh. That's all you can do at this point, 27 days into this
tough.
thing.
Very much so.
It's tough.
Jackie, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jackie.